An ordinary life, a busy world, an unwilling heart, who has never thought of walking freely in the world with fresh clothes and angry horses, wielding swords, and swords, tired of the endless office politics and facing setbacks in love and reality. Heng gave up struggling in the big city and had no choice but to return to his hometown, unexpectedly awakening his ability to become a saint. Running 5 kilometers per day. Physical enhancement plus 1%. Take 500 deep breaths. Strengthen the respiratory system by 1% and gain the ability to filter toxic gases. Reading for 3 hours. Memory enhancement plus 1% and improved emotional stability. Unlock one life achievement after another to gain different extraordinary abilities. Reaching the world's highest peak. Getting a glimpse of the fleeting future. Arriving at the supervolcano. Gaining heat resistance. Arriving at the nuclear waste area. Gaining radiation resistance. Staying in the stratosphere for 1 day and 1 night. Gaining flight capability. Watching polar night fall at the South Pole. Gaining the ability to ignore darkness. The mundane desires that countless people once pursued were so insignificant in the face of true transcendence. When he stepped across the mountains and rivers to travel around the world, and looked back, he had already left the world far behind. Keywords of the novel. Me, the only extraordinary person in this world without a pop-up window. Me, the only extraordinary person in this world. Download the complete text. Me, the only extraordinary person in this world. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Gradually decaying in the ordinary. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Gradually decaying in the ordinary. Heng, are you really leaving? The young man, slowly packing his things at the workstation, lifted his head. His face was a bit thin and his cheeks slightly shrunk, but his bones still showed that he was a rather handsome young man. Ah, I'm missing another colleague who can go to work and fish. Xiao Chen from the adjacent workstation sighed softly and said. Heng smiled and said, in the future, such like-minded people will only have more and not less, and they will not lack me. I patted his shoulder and then continued to pack up my things. Do you fish? If you have to do some calculations when going to the bathroom, run out of breath when taking out food, and start summarizing and reporting at the end of the workday. In this work mode, if you go to the rooftop to take a few breaths of fresh air, of course, they are going to smoke. During a brief period of looseness in human resources supervision, even if you catch fish, I feel like this is also a dead fish. Quickly, Heng had almost finished packing up, and now he realized that although he had been in this company for 4 or 5 years, there were really few traces of himself. 5 years of operation, it takes 20 minutes to clean up. Are you leaving? Sai, I still have a bunch of approval documents on hand, I really don't have time to send them to you. Heng shook his head and smiled, saying, no need, you can be busy. I know how much work the company arranges, so there's no need to waste time. Upon hearing him say so, Xiao Chen chuckled and agreed. At least he was the only one who greeted Heng, while the others were all burying their heads on the shore, their keyboards cracking and their phones ringing non-stop. Not many people noticed that there was an empty workstation here. However, when Heng walked out of the big office and looked back, he found that Xiao Chen was happily putting his printer, small self-heating tea machine, and takeout tray on Heng's workstation. After all, there are too many things on his desk that look bulky. Although he will definitely be criticized by the personnel supervisor for doing so, as long as he doesn't notice it for the time being, he can put it on for a day. It seemed that he had been thinking about it for a while, and Heng smiled bitterly as he walked out of the door. Stepping out of the company gate, out of the shadow of the office building, and looking out at the somewhat gray sky, the weather today is not very good. Go back, go home. 6 years ago, after graduating from university and leaving my hometown, I came to this first-tier city in China. Donghai City. After several twists and turns, I entered this well-known enterprise behind me, and now I will return to the starting point once again. Some people say that life is just a circle, but Heng didn't expect this circle to be so short. I used to be full of anticipation and longing, a vibrant young person. When I first arrived, I saw the city full of colorful lights and wine, towering buildings like forests, and thought that my life would bloom again, blooming with brilliant flowers. But reality taught him a lesson hard, making him understand that ideals are just what you think. When he first joined this large enterprise, he saw the world's disparities, with interns and salespeople in the same department. The normal 6-month probationary period for someone is only 3 months. Is it because that person is smart and capable? Is it because that person is proficient in business? It wasn't until later that I learned from other colleagues that his uncle was a B-level client of the company. After graduation, he stayed at home and didn't look for a job, so he was temporarily arranged to come over. His biggest achievement during his internship was to invite department members to drink coffee for a week. From then on, all his internship tasks were unexpectedly assigned to Heng and a few other interns, and he only needed to chat happily with his female colleagues in the office about the new products released this quarter. Heng had never even heard of those awkward foreign names. Heng also received the coffee he invited, but couldn't drink it anymore, it was too bitter. However, at that time, he felt that this was just the beginning, and it was just a small accidental phenomenon. It was not a big deal, as long as he worked hard, and was down to earth, there would always be a day when he was seen. Then he gradually saw the diligent and hardworking old employees who had been fired for reasons such as uncluttered document handwriting. When he received the notice, the person stood in front of the personnel office door, feeling lost, and knocked on the door before hesitating to put it down. He stood in front of the door for more than 10 minutes repeatedly, and finally left with a face turned to ashes. And the HR supervisor stood behind the blinds in the office, staring coldly at him. The real reason is actually that the department leader has changed, and the new leader has formed a team of their own. As for the old employees, at that moment, he suddenly realized that personal efforts and willpower sometimes don't seem to be so meaningful. But if we really talk about how dark and cruel this company is, it's not even an exploitative factory that eats people. But every day I wake up groggily in the alarm, fall asleep in the early morning while watching the work group still sending messages, order takeout to solve my daily eating, and waste time in one meaningless meeting after another. Why? He often gazes up at the starless urban night scene, asking questions that are impossible for anyone to answer. Everyone seems to be pretending to be happy in living unchanged and repetitive days, calculating every possible benefit. Even the order of using a shredder in the office can make people in the same department divide into 7 or 8 small groups to secretly slander. There are also people who are versatile and always understand the situation, wandering in front of various leaders and important personnel. They are well informed and even know what brand of ice cream the leader's son likes to eat. When the leader loses power and fails in the struggle, he can be so decisive and ruthless that he can kick open the new high platform pillar. Heng realized the gap between himself and others. This ability is something he does not possess, and certain things cannot be done by someone like him. He used to have a disdain for such people, but after a long time, he no longer viewed them maliciously. They were all a way of survival. And the fact has also proven that this society and environment are indeed more suitable for this way of survival. It is also an ability, but one is just inferior to others. Over time, Heng also lamented that his once young self was nothing more than a person with a lofty heart and a thin destiny than a piece of paper. He couldn't handle those rolling kings, those slippery heads, or even the real second generation. I am just an ordinary person. He hitchhiked very quickly and soon returned to the rental house. He continued to tidy up this 30 square meter room and organize the things he wanted to bring back. Then he found a pink hair clip through the seam of the bed, and upon seeing it, he felt a wave of melancholy. By calculation, it has been almost 2 months since my girlfriend left, and there is probably no possibility of meeting again in the future. After all, my hometown is thousands of kilometers away from Donghai City. This hairpin belongs to a girl named Chen Shi, whom we met over 2 years ago. Their lives were very happy, and he still remembered that he had bought this hair clip for her not long before. Later, he didn't know where it went, and she was anxious for a long time. Unexpectedly, he found it here in the end. They will cook together, clean up together, and tidy up this small 30-square-meter rental house. She will also mock herself for cooking fish that is too fishy, and she will also mock her for not even cooking her vegetable stems. Then the two of them went down together and ordered a stir-fried noodles. At that time, I would keep thinking about the future with her, often paying attention to the information of the major buildings in Donghai City, asking for a quick report of the property market from the Baoting downstairs if there was nothing to do, and then looking at the increasingly high housing prices day by day. The two people worried together, and finally they went to have a spicy hot pot to relieve their worries. She would also shave and trim her eyebrows, saying that he was too careless. Heng still couldn't resist and retorted that she had bought too many bottles and cans, saying they were all discounted and not expensive. Now the simple dressing table was empty, and Heng felt empty in his heart as he looked at it. But none of this can last forever. Even Heng knew in his heart that he was just afraid of the arrival of this day. However, reality is reality, there will always be what is meant to be, and what is meant to come will always come. After meeting her parents that night, Heng probably had psychological preparation. Her parents are actually quite polite, not as snobbish as in urban novels, shouting that you deserve my daughter's low-level clichés. At least the process was quite polite. But after inquiring about Heng's family background, personal assets, and work status, he frowned slightly and said a few simple words. We still hope that our daughter can settle in Donghai City. Well, I also don't want her life burden to be too heavy in the future. The words were very simple, the meaning was expressed very clearly, and Heng's understanding was also very clear. Sometimes there aren't as many dramatic conflicts in reality. It's just so straightforward, simple yet hurtful. Heng said he can understand, but he also wants to fight for it. Why can't I make money for so many people in the world? TikTok, Hongshu, Douban, Zhihu and other major platforms have many video posts showing off wealth that can drown people. Some engage in sidelines to earn a luxury car in 20 days, send out to buy a car to buy a house, flip sneaker bags to earn wages of migrant workers for 20 years, do media to earn thousands a day, and write novels online to earn millions a year. Can you say that you don't envy or be jealous? That's fake. I always feel like all the financial luck in the world has converged on you. Can you give me a little bit? Just a little bit. Just give it a little bit to continue your love. Heng's struggle ultimately turned out to be just a struggle. Delivering takeout doesn't earn him a car or a house, at least for 10 years. A person who doesn't even love posting on social media is even more difficult to do on WeChat. As a self-media professional, learning how to make videos and watching the click-through rate rise from single digits to double digits is indeed quite enjoyable, but that's all. As for writing novels, it cannot be said to be a bright path, at least it is also a dead end. As a young person, I probably never imagined that he would grow up to be so ordinary and even powerless in the face of major life events. In the end, he can only choose to face reality and then accept it. On the night when he made the decision, he took Qin-shi to a rather expensive Western restaurant for a meal, and they usually couldn't bear to come here. I don't remember what I said and talked about that night very clearly, but what I remember is Qin-shi's flushed eyes. He can't recall those eyes, otherwise it will be very uncomfortable. In fact, before that, her parents had intentionally or unintentionally revealed to him the various blind dates they had arranged for their daughter, including those who owned a small factory and worked as the general manager in their own factory, a civil servant who has been arranged by the family to serve within the system through the examination system. I have made a physical storefront in Donghai City by running a Taobao store. There is also a real estate sales champion holding a large stack of year-end bonuses. I am a loser. Heng evaluated himself in this way. He retreated and gave up. As a member of society, he had no background and could not compete with others. How could he not be defeated? You are a good girl, I hope you can be happy in the future. Putting down the pink hair clip in his hand, he didn't take it with him and left it here, in the past. After packing up everything, I finally found that it was just 2 suitcases and a large bag, which is all the traces of myself in this city. Sitting on the high-speed rail and watching the scene of speeding backwards outside the porthole, Li Heng's mind was empty and had nothing to think about. Choosing to leave and return to his hometown is also due to physical pressure. Years of overtime, staying up late, eating fast food, and emotional anxiety have caused various hidden dangers to his body. Every autumn and winter, he feels chest tightness, shortness of breath, and difficulty breathing, especially in the humid and rainy climate of Donghai City, which makes him feel like his lungs are stuffed with cotton wool. After seeing it in the hospital, the doctor only said that the physical condition is too poor and there is chronic damage to the respiratory tract. Long-term conditioning is needed to maintain a relaxed and happy state, not overwork, and nutrition should be able to keep up. Li Heng can only express that if he could have this kind of life, he wouldn't have to come to you. The high-speed rail has traveled thousands of kilometers across several provinces and cities, passing through countless mountains, rivers, and rivers. Looking at the continuous scenery outside this window, Li Heng couldn't help but sigh in secret. The vast world is so vast, why does a person live such a narrow and oppressive life? Half a day later, he returned to his hometown province, then took a bus and then transferred to a rural small bus. After traveling through several villages, he finally returned to his hometown village. However, it is unknown whether it was due to a long journey and a hypoglycemic attack. When he got off the car, he suddenly turned black in front of his eyes and his head went dizzy, and he collapsed on the roadside. In the darkness, an indescribable radiance surged deep within Li Heng's consciousness. It was like countless billions of fireflies converging in one place, and also like an unnamed color at the beginning of the opening of heaven and earth. Finally, after combining with Li Heng's conscious memory, it transformed into 4 big characters. Transforming the mortal into the holy. If one can prove to be extraordinary for a lifetime, why suffer to rot in this world? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Me, coming back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. Stop staying up late. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Stop staying up late. A 2-story small building with a small courtyard surrounded by red bricks and a brick and tile house serving as a toilet. This is Li Heng's old house, where he lived for nearly 20 years. In the past 5 or 6 years, he only came back to tidy up the house every year when he was sweeping the grave, so that the house would not be abandoned or dilapidated. However, now the walls and courtyards are still overgrown with weeds, and the tiled roof is covered with moss. There is no one at home, that's all. A house needs popularity, otherwise it will be abandoned much faster. But it's okay, he's back now and he doesn't plan to leave for a while. This small house will also be taken good care of again. It took a whole afternoon to finally tidy up the main room and bedroom, which were filled with dust, spider webs, and other miscellaneous items, to the point where it could at least accommodate people. I didn't expect the house cleaning to be so tiring. Li Hengchang took a deep breath and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Suddenly, he was taken aback and froze in place for a few seconds. Because he noticed a slight change on the panel of his consciousness that transformed into the divine. Surprisingly, the physical fitness has increased from 80 to 81, a significant increase. Cough. Although this description is a bit exaggerated, Li Heng's rationality told him that this numerical change is not as insignificant as it appears on the surface. A bit of physical strength, it doesn't look very good, but this is just the result of an afternoon of hard work, and in proportion, this growth has already exceeded 1%. If the growth rate is based on this indicator, wouldn't Li Heng only need to maintain this amount of exercise for 100 days to double his physical fitness? One can compare to the previous 2. What kind of concept, he will be able to reach the limits of human beings in less than 2 years. It's too outrageous, even he himself was frightened by this speculation. It's hard to say, I've only been able to acquire this ability for a day now, and I don't have enough information to judge and deduce future development. Moreover, with only a slight increase so far, I can't even intuitively feel whether I have truly become stronger. This is a crucial factor, and only when he can intuitively experience the reflection of numerical values to reality can he confirm its authenticity. Otherwise, it cannot be verified whether this change is just a change in panel numbers. What if this panel is fake? What should I do if it's just a fantasy in my mind due to mental disorders? Heng is such a person, with a natural sense of caution. If many things are not verified, without at least 70.8% certainty, he will not make up his mind, but this personality also makes him appear a bit afraid of his hands and feet, lacking the courage to take risks. Perhaps this is also the reason why he cannot become rich. After all, in this era, if you want to suddenly become rich, often you have to challenge the bottom line and make a big bet. If you win, you will soar across social classes, but if you lose, you will end up in 100 and fall into a deep pool. Moreover, what is the manifestation of this physical enhancement? Has your physical strength increased? Or will you become physically stronger? Or is it healthier with enhanced immunity? It is still all-round growth and balanced development. Each of these situations will correspond to different changes, as the values are fixed, but they will have different effects in different aspects. For example, taking this growth point as an example, if it is all reflected in physical strength, it is that his strength has increased by about 1.25%, which can be detected by a grip or tension meter. If it is the degree of physical strength, it is also similar, mainly the strengthening of muscle groups. If it is because of enhancing one's physical fitness and making oneself healthier, it is difficult to detect, because it may be because it makes one's immune system stronger and can resist the invasion of external pathogens, as well as the circulatory system more resilient and enhances the ability to absorb nutrients and eliminate toxins. If inferred in this way, Heng still prefers the last possibility, which is all-round growth. The reason is probably that if comprehensive synchronous strengthening cannot be achieved, this growth will definitely reach its limit soon. For example, if you only enhance strength, then when your physical strength reaches a certain level, it will cause significant damage to your body because the effects of force are mutual. A light punch on the wall can be a bit painful at most. If the punch can reach several hundred kilograms but the bones are still at their original strength, then the fist will definitely break before the brick. Similarly, physical growth is accompanied by an increase in consumption, and the body's energy supply must also increase at every moment. Therefore, it is necessary to strengthen both the respiratory and circulatory systems, and even the digestive system. The human body is like the barrel effect, any weakness will drag down the overall strength. If this transformation from ordinary to holy can truly lead oneself step by step into a realm beyond ordinary, then this reinforcement should be comprehensive. Although the surface of the panel may seem simple or even rudimentary, once you think about it carefully, the complexity is unknown. This is not something that can be concluded in a day or two. I'm hungry, forget about it for now. After working all afternoon, the physical energy consumption was quite high, and the amount of labor was comparable to the 1 week's work in Donghai City. There are also some food brought back from the rental room in the suitcase, most of them are vacuum-packaged foods, and they were already cooked until the night before they arrived. It's probably impossible to start cooking. Vacuum-packaged soy sauce beef, freeze-dried vegetables, and self-heating rice can be prepared for tonight by boiling water in a pot. Call out. The electric accelerator emits billowing white smoke, which is one of the few appliances in the family that can still be used. First, boil the kettle of water to detoxify and remove the odor, then boil the kettle of water that can be drunk again. The village tap water is not yet connected, so we can only boil the well water. Fortunately, the electric pump for the water well installed in the early years was not broken, otherwise Heng would have to work hard to roll the well himself. That was a painful memory of his childhood. Every time he ran over a full tank of sailors' palms, it turned red with grinding. Boil hot water, pour it into a clean porcelain bowl, soak the freeze-dried vegetables, and add soy sauce beef to eat together with self-heating rice. This fast food is still delicious. I don't know if I'm hungry from working. In just over 10 minutes, he managed to finish this dinner. Perhaps it was because he had developed this urgent eating habit through long-term urban life, and even when he returned to his hometown, he couldn't help but feel like eating quickly. Although he no longer needs to go back to work overtime after finishing his meal. After finishing his meal, he moved out the wooden stool that his father had made a long time ago and sat at the doorstep. He looked quietly at the small path paved with stones in front of the door, as well as the lights of various village buildings and tiled houses not far away. A long-forgotten sense of tranquility surrounded him. How long has it been, how long has it not been so peaceful to sit and watch the lights in this small village? When I was still in Donghai City, besides work, I worked overtime. Even on rare weekends and holidays, I kept scrolling through videos with little nutrition on my phone, and then let out a few meaningless laughter. It seemed like a brief pleasure, but later I quickly forgot and continued to stay up late to continue working. The cultivation of lifestyle habits is multifaceted, and sometimes mood is also one of the reasons. Li Heng's rare ability to pass the time without taking out his phone and quietly watching his hometown after sunset, enjoying this unfamiliar peace, is also related to his change in mentality. Don't stay up late tonight, go to bed. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. All Things Controversy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. Learning makes me progress. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Learning makes me progress. All I can think of is two possibilities. Firstly, the ability to transform from the mortal to the sacred has a fatigue for simple repetitive fixed labor. This is similar to the marginal effect in economics, where the same factor is repeatedly invested and the return decreases when it reaches a certain threshold. He has been doing cleaning and cleaning the house for the past 2 days, and the general way of labor is similar. Yesterday was just when he awakened and became a saint, and it was also the time when this labor method had the highest income. Just like a young man who is just starting to fall in love, in the early days, watching some low-pixel photos with bare chest and back couldn't help but make one's blood boil. After becoming an experienced driver who has read countless movies, there may not be much fluctuation in 4K high definition without a code. Secondly, this type of cleaning labor is not the best way to exercise and strengthen the body. Labor and exercise both belong to sports, but labor is not equivalent to exercise. Not all labor can have the effect of exercising the body. On the contrary, many times high-intensity, incorrect methods, and unscientific labor can bring negative effects, allowing the body to accumulate trauma. Don't worry, I still have a lot of time and opportunities to verify one by one, and during the verification process, I will gradually improve my physical and mental health. Li Heng is a very open-minded person who won't be overly swayed by temporary gains and losses. He can calmly give up his love after recognizing reality, at least on the surface. This is not that he doesn't love his girlfriend and sees this relationship as meaningless, but rather that after making all the attempts, he realizes the real resistance in it. Now that he has seen it clearly, what's the use of hysteria? He can only restrain the meaningless emotions. It took about half an hour again, and before the sun completely set, he finally cleaned up his home inside and outside, transforming it from a filming location that could be used for horror films in a deserted village to a place like a place to live alone. Then he quickly went to the market to buy the vegetables, meat, rice, noodles and other staple foods he needed later. By the time we arrived home, it was already completely dark. He still uses a firewood stove at home, and there is no such thing as a gas stove or coal stove. He only brought back a small rice cooker, so when cooking, he still needs to use the ancestral large iron pot. Those who have lived in rural areas know that cooking alone can be quite troublesome, as they have to put firewood and fire while running to the pot to stir-fry vegetables, add salt and ingredients, and go back and forth, causing a lot of trouble. However, perhaps the little physical growth he has gained in the past 2 days has come in handy. He feels that his skills are quite agile and he is not too busy to handle it. Chinese cabbage with lard, braised pork belly with soy sauce, he can't fry sugar, and a small pot of tomato and egg soup are the simple ones in Li Henghui's menu. The taste has reached a relatively delicious level after a considerable period of cultivation with my girlfriend before. Will different foods also have an impact on the body? Li Heng chewed on a piece of red meat, his lips glistening with oil as he thought. He remembered that some of the nutritional and fitness meals that often appear in online advertisements require various combinations of meat and vegetables, as well as consideration of the intake ratio of different chemicals. Protein percentage, carbohydrate percentage, micrograms of vitamins, and other zero total trace elements are all required by different organs and tissues of the human body. However, ultimately, whether those material elements are useful or not is often unclear to consumers. Most people purchase various nutritional and health meals with a mindset of believing in what they have and believing in what they don't have. It's always better to have more. And even if it's useless, as long as it's not harmful, sometimes relying on psychological effects may still bring some positive effects. Only those with relatively high scientific literacy and long-term persistence can benefit from it, such as fitness enthusiasts who can exercise for a long time and combine it with complementary foods and supplements, ultimately reflecting changes in body fat percentage and muscle groups. The vast majority of people who want to gain more enhancement effects than their regular diet from these numerous health and nutritional supplements are no different from seeking gold in the sand. Because the feedback speed of the human body is slow, the short-term effect is also extremely weak. But in Li Heng's case, it's different. His awakening of turning mortals into saints clearly has the effect of amplifying the benefits obtained by the human body. How can a short day and a half of normal human labor bring about an increase in physical fitness of over 2%? In other words, Li Heng can use himself as an ultra-efficient biological experimental platform. He can choose some relatively high-quality nutrients and try them one by one. Ordinary people cannot produce visible changes by drinking them for a day or two. But in Li Heng's case, if these substances are truly beneficial, they will naturally generate multiple effects, which will be reflected in the panel data. By the way, don't I have a pack of supplements now? He remembered the pack of nourishing herbs sold to him by Lao Li from the clinic yesterday. Herbs are similar things, and their effects are also derived from long-term experience. In other words, those prescriptions are actually obtained by using people who have taken these drugs for thousands of years as experimental subjects. If viewed from today's modern medical philosophy, it is more like a black box, without chemical testing, pharmacological analysis, and clinical models. The follow-up effect of people who have taken it in the past is the output of this black box, a relatively blurry result. However, on the other hand, although modern medicine has become very advanced with the support of various biochemical sciences and cutting-edge instruments, it still cannot fully understand many pathological and physiological mechanisms of the human body. Many pathological mechanisms are also based on clinical reactions to draw rough and vague conclusions. In other words, they are just a black box, a more refined black box. This is the complexity of the human body, or life itself. After the black box is opened, it still remains a black box. It can only be dismantled layer by layer, hoping that one day we can find a unified theory that integrates all the black boxes. So Li Heng did not have a complete aversion to traditional Chinese medicine, treating it as a pseudoscience, but rather balancing it with modern medical theory and biological science. But my knowledge is still too shallow, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine theory or advanced modern medicine. Originally, as a simple social animal, Li Heng could not have such a studious spirit. He was occupied with a lot of work on weekdays and rarely read or studied. Children who took breaks, watched videos, and live broadcasts were mostly focused on entertainment. His current main scientific knowledge is still acquired through interest in university, and it is very diverse. He has some knowledge in astronomy, geography, social sciences, humanities, and natural sciences, but has not delved deeply into them. As for men, they have a bit of curiosity and a need for flattery. Often, knowledge is just used to pretend to be a small part and engage in verbal battles with other netizens online. However, now that you have the ability to transform and become a saint, it is necessary to have a deeper understanding of this knowledge. Those who only know how to exercise and add points, but cannot make reasonable use of their golden fingers, are always just fools. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. I Want Everything. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. I Want Everything. The smoke from the kitchen wafts, and the fragrance of medicine fills the nose. The bag of Chinese medicinal herbs in the small clay pot was fluttering in the boiling water, emitting white smoke. More than 10 types of herbs were slowly seeping into the boiling water under the heat. While taking the medicine, Heng was also focused on watching the video playing on his phone. This is a sophisticated animated science popularization video that uses exquisite and interesting cartoons to analyze and explain the various systems of the human body, including respiratory system, circulatory system, nervous system, digestive system, reproductive system, etc. Listening to the familiar professional terms, Heng couldn't help but sigh. The dead high school knowledge is attacking me, but this is just a simple science popularization video, which contains limited knowledge. 99% of the details in human biology cannot be displayed, but it only roughly helped Heng review the content from middle school. After watching the video, he opened the search engine again and uploaded pictures one by one for retrieval. The pictures are all dried and chopped pieces of grass and wood, which he just took. It was from the package of nourishing herbs. He opened the medicine package and took photos of the herbs that could still be seen in shape and characteristics. Then, he searched for which herbs they were in the search engine. This is done partly to confirm that these drugs have no toxicity or side effects, and also to roughly deduce the prescription. This is also because Lao Li did not grind all these medicinal herbs into powder. After all, it was just a simple nourishing medicine package, and there was no strict confidentiality requirement. If Heng specifically asked, he might be able to find out. Secondly, after launching the prescription, Heng can even tune the prescription himself. Yes, Heng plans to study traditional Chinese medicine and the traditional 5 elements of nourishing life on his own. He has an advantage that all traditional Chinese medicine doctors do not have, which is that he can intuitively and immediately experience the effects. After all, there is more than just drinking medicine in Chinese medicine regimen. Acupuncture and moxibustion, massage, cupping, qigong, vomiting and so on are all included in these regimen categories. He not only needs to understand modern advanced theories of human biology research, to explore the most reasonable and scientific exercise methods, but also needs to use the valuable experience summarized by countless people over thousands of years to continuously strengthen himself. I want everything. Heng was full of enthusiasm at this moment, as if he had discovered a brand new and brilliant path in life. He had just stepped into the threshold of this road. The fire on the stove stopped, and the boiling medicinal juice gradually calmed down. According to Lao Li, this medicine can be boiled for half an hour. Heng is not in a hurry to drink, he burns his mouth. Take out the spoon and let it cool bit by bit before drinking. After tasting, the taste is slightly bitter, but soon it still has a slight sweetness. It's not as bad as imagined. While drinking medicine, he continued to browse through materials and downloaded some basic books on traditional Chinese medicine theory and drug identification guides online. After drinking the medicinal soup, his body slightly warmed up and he stood up to continue his activities. At this time, he had been studying attentively for over an hour. At this point, he noticed that his panel had undergone a slight change again. Oh. My mental health has increased from 92 to 93. It's another bit of growth, no more, no less. It's also possible that this panel doesn't have the concept of a decimal point, right? Heng sighed slightly in his heart. After all, this ability was still too rudimentary. Not only were there too few attribute items, but even the accuracy was so rough. If he were more meticulous, his research would be more convenient. What are the aspects of spiritual enhancement? He closed his eyes and slowly pondered in his mind, without a specific and clear idea. He just casually diverged his thinking wherever he wanted. The breakfast I had in the morning was 2 vegetarian buns each, plus 1 glutinous rice cake. It cost a total of 6.50 yuan and was paid through a certain Alipay account. Before payment, I also received a 31 yuan red envelope, so the final payment was 5.19 yuan. He took out his phone and checked the billing records of a certain treasure, and found that it was indeed like this. My memory seems to have become clearer. Heng was a bit surprised. Although it was just an incident that happened in the morning, it was normal to remember what he had eaten and how much he had paid. However, in general, he couldn't remember and didn't pay much attention to the few cents and cents of the red envelope he paid. It's quite strange that such an inconspicuous small number can still leave a lasting impression in my mind. So, the most direct manifestation of mental enhancement is better memory. The reason for his mental strengthening is that he focused on learning the basic theories of human biology and traditional Chinese medicine for over an hour. After understanding this, Heng felt quite happy in his heart, and then he lay in bed with his phone and opened a certain app to watch entertainment videos for over an hour as a reward. He only put down his phone when he saw that his eyes were slightly swollen. I looked at the dashboard and, the value didn't change. TSK, it seems that there hasn't been any growth in video browsing. It's not scientific, and even though I've been watching it, my eyes have become sore. After realizing this, Heng encouraged himself to work hard in his heart, and then he flipped over in bed to charge his phone while opening XX Glory. After a few rounds of games, it was over an hour, and this time not only his eyes were bloating, but his brain was also bloating. It's okay to go on the road and grab people's heads from fighting in the wilderness. I thought he was helping me gank, but when the mage came over to eat my thread, I also endured it. What does it mean for you to come and grab my experience as an assistant? Then, in the game voice, a few dialects with unknown accents occasionally pop up. Why are you wandering around here when you place an order? I'm dying, you can't get over it when you place an order. You're just a me *****, call out. Heng let out a long sigh and then directly exited the game, becoming a cheater. I still overestimated my mental resistance that I just improved a bit, but fortunately, the experiment has already been completed. The result is no response. Although Heng felt that he was already very focused in the game, focusing on matchups and team fights to think about how to win the game, and even opening up the team voice that had never been opened before to hone his mind. I was trying to find a new way to strengthen my spirit by fixing the card bug, but the panel doesn't look like it's worth it. There is a fundamental difference between learning and watching videos or playing games. Sure enough, both academic achievers and lazy cancer will be abandoned on the path of evolution. After realizing that he couldn't sit on the ground and upgrade by lying down, Heng quickly got out of bed and started exercising. The reason why he didn't continue studying was because he couldn't stand watching the screen for 3 or 4 hours in a row. This is also a small problem that falls behind in work all year round. When facing a computer or phone screen for more than 2 to 3 hours, his eyes will become dry, itchy, with red blood streaks appearing and hot. After checking the time, it's not early either. It's already 9:30. He plans to finish his last exercise today and go to bed. The exercise method he has chosen is currently the simplest but relatively most scientific one he can find. That's radio gymnastics. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. This is the great way. You are listening at novel full.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. Lu Bo. You are listening at novel full.audio. Chapter 8. Lu Bo slowly adjust from the initial 2-step exhalation and 2-step inhalation to 3-step exhalation and 3-step inhalation. For people who have not exercised for a long time, this is actually a very painful process, with chest tightness, short breath, weak legs and feet, and even the possibility of blackening in front of their eyes. If we stop at this point, the exercise effect will be greatly reduced, and the human body can only adapt to its previous state, unable to leap to the next level. So at this time, it's actually a test of mental endurance, whether you can grit your teeth and persevere. Compared to ordinary people, Heng has a huge advantage that others do not have. His exercise effect immediately surpasses that of ordinary people by many times. For ordinary people, simply running 800 or 1000 meters does not significantly improve their physical fitness. If they stop practicing after running this trip, it is basically meaningless. But with the blessing of transforming the mortal into the holy, Heng's body underwent a slight improvement in his respiratory system, circulatory system, and muscle tissue after running 1000 to 800 meters. Although the changes were not visible to the naked eye, they had already produced substantial effects. This positive improvement brings about physical strengthening, supporting him to continue running the rest of the way and further strengthen himself. In this cycle, he can achieve an improvement speed that ordinary people cannot match. From the village entrance to the market town, there is a cement road of 3 or 4 kilometers. Heng jogged all the way, and if he had used to, he would have had to stop several times in the middle to rest. Now he can run the entire distance without stopping, although his breathing is short and his chest is stuffy and wheezing, and his throat is dry and sore due to breathing heavily. However, his stamina increased again, from 83 to 84. Although it's still a bit, you should know that he only grew a little in the morning when he woke up, and now he has run for less than half an hour in total, with very short intervals between them. He was panting heavily, and Heng understood that he should have reached his limit by now. Even though his physique had improved, the intensity of the increase could not support him to continue exercising without limits. And even though his body is constantly strengthening, he will still encounter an insurmountable upper limit, which is energy. That's right, it's like a car, no matter how armor is added, the engine is strengthened, or the most advanced transmission technology is used, but as long as the fuel tank runs out, even Optimus Prime has to shut down. The human body is the same. No matter how much Heng can ultimately strengthen his physique, he still obtains energy through eating, and he eats the same foods as ordinary humans. Starch, sugars, fats, proteins. The energy density of these foods is limited, and there is also an upper limit to a person's food intake, so the energy input naturally has an upper limit. However, Heng doesn't need to worry about this issue at the moment. He hasn't exercised to the limit of his body yet, so he doesn't have to worry about energy intake not being able to support physical expenditure. Conservatively calculated, his physique needs to reach over 200 to consider the issue of food conversion rate. But from now on, he also needs to consider and try to eat foods with higher energy density and sufficient nutrients in the future. This kind of food is mostly not too cheap, and it seems that in the future, a considerable portion of Heng's savings may be used for dry rice. Fortunately, his gaze is no longer just on a small amount of money. In other words, money is just a tool to achieve goals. His goal has now become to evolve himself. He wants to see where he can go and what kind of life he can become with this sudden ability. The breakfast shops in the market town are much more diverse than those at the village entrance, and Heng can have a selection of breakfast options. After finishing breakfast, he also had to replenish some supplies and bought some special nutrition products for middle-aged and elderly people, which cost over 1,000 yuan. Carrying large and small bags, he returned the same way. By the time he arrived at the village, it was already morning, and most of the villagers had gone out to do work and work. Would it be possible to meet some fellow villagers on the way? Some villagers can still recognize Li Heng and would come forward to greet him, then shout with a slightly high-profile voice, "Isn't this Xiaoheng? When did he come back? Do you still recognize me? Who am I? How many grades are you in?" Li Heng could only silently nod and smile, but how the village has changed in the past, these questions remain unchanged. The former villagers always felt that you were still in school. Li Heng has only been back for 2 days and has been cleaning at home without any interaction with the villagers. Most people are unaware of his return. Moreover, he doesn't want many people to know that he's coming back. It's not about returning home in glory, but in a sense, he's just a deserter. Moreover, after his parents passed away, he had very little contact with the villagers and had a very weak relationship. Of course, except for Lu Bo. Li Heng did not return to his own home, but instead followed a winding path and turned to a red brick bungalow on the east side of the village, knocking on the door of the house. The person who opened the door was an old man with half-white hair and wrinkles printed on his face, but Li Heng knew he was only 50.2, which didn't quite match this image. The old man who opened the door was slightly stunned. "Xiaoheng. Why did you come back? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on in." At the sight of Li Heng, Lu Bo's old face, as hard as a stone mill, suddenly burst into a smile like a blooming frost. "I'm still having breakfast. Let me serve you a bowl of taro congee. It started last week. This taro is so sweet this year. It's very good to cut." As he spoke, he took out a bowl from the cupboard, but there was a small gap and some stains on the edge of the bowl, which he hadn't washed clean before because he cut taro too late last night and cooked some soup to eat, hastily brushing it off. Lu Bo calmly put the bowl back and then took out a new bowl from under the cupboard that had not been used before, but it had accumulated a layer of dust due to long-term inactivity. He quickly took a bowl to the well water to rinse, then turned around and grinned at Li Heng, saying, "Oh my house is just too dirty. Xiaoheng, don't be surprised by the cultural people who come back from this big city. Where are you talking?" Li Heng quickly got up and wanted to help, telling Uncle Lu not to be busy. But the old man was a bit stubborn, insisting that he taste the sweetness of his newly grown taro. Seeing that he was so interested, Li Heng could not refuse. He was relieved to take the taro congee from Lu Busheng. The congee is boiled very well, and the taro is really as sweet as Lu Bo said, and he hasn't tasted it for a long time. Although he had already eaten breakfast, he still ate this bowl of congee with sweet taste. Watching him eat all his food, Lu Bo sat on the side with a yellow smile on his face. "Sweet, right? Delicious," Li Heng sincerely replied. "Okay, even college students who have eaten good food in your city say it's delicious. If I sell this taro again this year, it will cost him 30 cents more, Lu Bo said half-jokingly. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Non-Close Relatives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Non-Close Relatives. "Hey, Uncle Lu, you're saying that again." Li Heng felt somewhat helpless. What kind of college student, city resident, or cultured person? "I am from this village." "The same village as you will always be your big nephew, ah. Ha ha ha, it's also." Lu Bo rubbed his forehead with 3 bars and said with a smile. Watching Lu Bo's wrinkles increase again, Li Heng's smile couldn't help but become slightly bitter. It seems that people in this world who are second only to their parents are not doing well. Speaking of which, he really doesn't have much kinship with Lu Bo. Calling him Bo is because his father followed him for a period of time in his early years, and he treated his father like a younger brother. Later, Li Heng's parents passed away in an accident while working outside, and his family had moved in early years and were not indigenous to this village, with no relatives or elders. As soon as his parents left, Li Heng was young and had no one to take care of their affairs. Only Lu Bo extended a helping hand at this moment. It was also him who helped negotiate with the construction site where the accident occurred. An old farmer who could only read a few hundred words searched for various departments in a strange city to handle procedures for his fellow brothers and couples of different surnames in the same village, and fought against powerful developers to obtain the compensation they deserved. After working hard for half a year, he finally returned home. Afterwards, he didn't withdraw a penny and gave it all to Heng, who was still in school at the time. With this money, Heng was able to complete his high school and college education despite the loss of his parents and lack of financial resources. This kind of kindness, let alone whether it is related or not, even a close uncle may not be able to achieve it. So Heng firmly believed in his heart that no matter what, he must never forget Lu Bo. Every year, no matter how busy he is, he must take some time to come back. It's not for ancestor worship, and his Li family ancestral tomb is not here, just to visit Lu Bo. Uncle Lu, take these things and remember to eat them. You need to take good care of them at this age. He brought those nutritional supplements to Lu Bo, which were not bought for him. Lu Bo's face sank. I've said it so many times, asking you to hold back waste and hold back waste, still not listening. I don't lack these things, what a waste of that money. But Heng still smiled firmly and asked him to accept it, then took out a red bag and handed it to Lu Bo, which contained 5,000 yuan. Seeing this, Lu Bo's reaction became even greater. He rubbed against it and stood up, almost blowing his beard and glaring, cursing him to take the money back, even using some vulgar language. But Heng will definitely not change his mind, and it has been the same every year in the past. When he comes back to visit Lu Bo, he always quietly leaves him some money. The reason why he didn't stay quietly this time is because as usual, he would return to the city. Even if Lu Bo wanted to pay back, he wouldn't come. But now that he lives in the village, quietly stuffing money is useless. Xiaoheng, let me show you. Lu Bo left a sentence and went back to the room to explore for a while before coming out and taking something. Heng was slightly stunned when he saw that thing. It's actually a passbook. You must be disobedient and give me money every year. Look at this money, I'll save it for you. The little old man's words seemed to have a somewhat proud tone. Uncle Lu, you. Heng was really stunned this time, never expected. Lu Bo sighed and said, I know it's not easy for you, big city. TSK, how could it be so easy? You don't have money in your pocket to live in the city, it's so hard. Don't waste it. In the future, you will have to marry a wife and raise children, buy a house and drive a car. Your days will grow, and you will need money everywhere. I will save it for you, and I will pay you back when you come back. I'm hiding this fold tightly, I dare not let that bastard at home know, otherwise I'll be spendthrift in a few days. Heng fell silent for a moment after speaking these words. In the end, he could only say one thing. Uncle Lu, take this money and keep it as if I have sent it to you. If I really need it in the future, I will come back to collect it. After speaking, he forced Lu Bo to withdraw his passbook. Truly stubborn, Lu Bo still couldn't resist Heng. Speaking of which, why did you come back so early this year? You're on vacation so soon? Lu Bo asked after retrieving his passbook. Heng lowered his head slightly and hesitated for a moment, but still explained his situation. When he heard Heng say that he had resigned and no longer stayed in the city, intending to come back to live, Lu Bo's originally cheerful face stiffened slightly, and his joyful expression gradually subsided. My lips parted, but I still didn't say anything. After a while, I hummed and answered 2 sentences. Well. Young people, well. Life is all about one's own choice, okay. I don't have much culture here, I can't say much, you. Just feel good about it. After finishing speaking, I took a deep bite of yam and chewed it. Heng can also understand Lu Bo's reaction. He hopes to have success, and he is definitely disappointed with his current choice. However, Lu Bo felt that he was not his parents, and even more so, he couldn't say it, only to this extent. At this moment, a figure walked in unsteadily through the door. Big. Have you eaten anything? Have you cooked so much? Hurry up and serve me some, I haven't eaten all night. A chubby man in a jacket stumbled in through the door, shouting and begging for food, and then looked up to see an unwelcome guest at home. The slightly chubby man was momentarily stunned and shook for a while before asking, "So why did you come?" The tone is not very polite, with an undisguised rejection and malice. Heng stood up and gave him a slight smile, but there was no goodwill on his face, just a save face. "Big Fei, did you go out to play again last night?" Heng asked softly with a half-smile. Lu Qingfei, the son of Lu Bo, is 2 years older than himself. He grew up playing together, or rather, he grew up together. Heng has been at odds with this guy, but unfortunately, Lu Bo is the closest person to him besides his parents. "What are you doing here?" "It's on vacation again." "You really have a lot of vacation in your company." As Lu Qingfei spoke, he walked over to pick up a porcelain bowl and came to the stove. As soon as he opened the pot, his face turned black and he cursed, "Damn it. That's this thing again. I'm almost smelling feces from this taro, Big. Didn't I ask you to weigh some braised vegetables? I want to eat ear skin." Upon hearing his disrespectful tone, Heng's eyelids narrowed slightly and an unnamed aura surged in his heart. Lu Bo saw that his son also had a bad temper and said, "If you want to eat, eat. If you don't eat, get out." Lu Qingfei threw a spatula and cursed, "Damn it, as soon as this kid comes back, you'll show me your face and make me get lost. Give me some money." Lu Bo directly set his face aside, too lazy to look at him. Heng looked up and down at Lu Qingfei and asked again, "Da Fei, did you go out to play cards, gambling, again? I won't even add my brother this time." Lu Qingfei was taken aback for a moment, then his face twisted slightly and he said loudly, "It's none of your business." Heng didn't get angry either, he just said in a deep voice, "I don't care if you live or die, but if you drag on Lu Bo, I won't be able to just watch." "Mother Tay. My son, your son. What are you forcing me to do with my family affairs?" Lu Qingfei patted the table and started shouting. Heng wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Lu Bo, "Forget it, Heng. I can't argue with him anymore, it doesn't make sense. There's no cure left. I'll let him go." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The true cause is ordinary people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors.